The snow has finally gone, and I'm along today to do a few jobs. I would like to show you those jobs that I've done, what I'm in the process of doing, and what has been done. So I've been working on these roses along here, and as you can see, I've cut them back quite a lot. They were part of a kind of a hedge that I'd woven together, but now what I'm attempting to do is look at those roses separately and try and treat them a little bit differently. So, for example, this rose in particular here, which I have pruned, and I think I've come to a stage where I'm going to leave it. I don't know how well I've pruned it, but I'll prune it and observe what happens to it, is I think some kind of tea rose, or I think something called a floribunda. Now this I think you've got to prune back by a half to a third, and I've pruned it back to where I think buds would be after cutting out dead wood. It was maybe double the size that it is. I don't know if I've done the wrong thing, but hopefully it has enough space and air around it, and you know, my pruning cuts are, I don't know if you can see that, probably not. My pruning cuts are reasonable, not fantastic. Some I've pruned back to you know, to remove dead wood, and you can see I've pruned to where I think some kind of bud will hopefully develop. Sort of further along there were buds that were something like, if we look at this one, that perhaps were more like this. Where are we? Where's my hand? There. Now obviously, sorry you probably can't see that, but I've obviously cut those kind of buds off back to somewhere where there's less of a bud, but we'll just have to see what happens. And as I say, it's kind of been in a process of clearing. So I've got various bits along here. You know, there's kind of hawthorn, which again were probably double the height, and I've cut these down so to encourage them to grow low along. As you can see, there's a lot of rose prunings that I've taken off. This I'm in the process of cutting back. Now this I think is some kind of Old English rose or rambler, which is going to be nice and tall, I think. So I'm not quite sure what to do with these, but again, if we look at the one that's next to the floribunda or the Old English tea rose that I've pruned, you can see a lot of this, where I've cut it down to the ground, was basically all dead wood, and I have taken out some live wood to sort of leave these quite tall, which I think is supposed to be their character, and spread out, and to give things a bit of space. I need to work on this one over here, and if we look further along, going back this way, sorry that's rather fast that I'm panning, I'm going to do a bit more work on this area up here. So anyway, we'll have to see what happens. Also coming along to the allotment here, we've got, you can see that I've mulched over here. This is something I've done previously. I also have been pruning back the hawthorn hedge quite hard on my side. I'm moving towards that now. I'm looking to probably have that a little bit higher than it is, but you can sort of see, if you look up along, I've kind of pruned that, you know, kind of quite hard. I did that before the snows came, and you know, you can sort of see that I've done that. And there's also some kind of tree behind this, which I've cut back a lot to allow this hawthorn to develop more. It was crowding on that hawthorn. I've previously pruned the gooseberries pretty hard again. And a little bit of another thing here, a little bit sad. We've got a little dead frog here. Well, not little, it's quite big and quite bloated. You can see it there, bit of a shame. bury that somewhere. Don't know what's quite happened to it there. It looks rather sad. And I'll show you as well, I probably have shown you this before in previous videos, where I pruned the apples. Before we go on to those are the leeks after the frost. I don't know what they'll be like. Might be okay. And there's the Jerusalem artichokes behind, which I haven't really harvested yet. Okay, so let's go along here. You can see that these are the pears, the tips of which were dying. I've pruned those dead bits out on the pears. There we go. These are 2 plums, which I've left, and a cherry at the end, which I think is pretty much dead. But we'll see how that goes. And then these are coming across, these are the gooseberries, and I've pruned those really pretty hard to kind of open them up into a kind of a goblet shape, and just to sort of form them a little bit. Again, it's a bit of trial and error here. We've got some much smaller ones around, which are, I think, we've inherited, or they've cropped up on their own accord, and they're probably too close to this large one. But anyway, that's looking a bit more open in terms of shape than it was, and we'll just sort of see how that goes. Along here there were some elder trees, which I've cut right back down, but I need to dig out. Raspberries, not really very impressed with these. I've kind of mulched along nicely, but there's not really very much there. I might need to plant some more raspberries. The back area is getting a bit more organised. You can see previously I've made that wooden retaining wall there at the back, which looks quite good, I think. So coming along here, sort of dead things, a few poppies in there. Right, so this is, you can see I've pruned this very hard, and hopefully I haven't done a bad thing, but I've read about this, and this is this Dutch spindlebush technique. So I've pruned all these apples hard. I've pruned them carefully. You can see I've pruned the top tip so it's just above a kind of a bud, so I've been my cuts are very nice and clean. I mean, I think I've done a pretty good job in terms of the prune. It's just a case of how well they respond to it, and so they're a lot smaller than they were. But the idea is you have a kind of a single upright, and then a sort of a weather vane like series of arms that come off it. So I've pruned all of those apples. I've started to, if we look up to the rowan, I've started to prune the rowan back. I've even been up and pruned, well, you can probably see a few pruning, you can't see really, but there's a few pruning cuts. I've gone up on a ladder and pruned up there as well to let a bit more light in. So you just see, where would it be? Yeah, you can sort of see a few pruning cuts. Where are they? Yeah, I've pruned a few high branches, to let a bit more light in, and a bit more here. Prune things to let a bit more light in, really. Here's the back area, again getting a bit more organised, so all looking pretty good, really. Yeah, not a lot more to say at this stage, I think. But things sort of starting to kind of take shape. The weather's certainly changed today, so that's quite nice. Anyway, let's go back, return to the place where we started. There we go. Alright. Bye for now. That doesn't appear to be stopping.